Okay, let's get you guys a CV. Before we start, this is a general video on how to write an excellent CV. It is based on my personal experience along with the wisdom of some people at the world's top companies. As a note, the focus of a CV will depend on the exact industry that you're applying to. This video doesn't cover every nuance, but if you would like industry-specific advice, let me know. To give you an overview, at the end of this video, you will walk away with a high-quality, free CV template that you guys can tailor to the exact position or positions that you are applying for. You'll also understand the point of a CV along with how to write an excellent CV. And I will also mention some tips and tricks to take your CV to the next level. I will add the details of everything that I mentioned in the description of this video, so please just sit back and relax. With the formalities out of the way, now let's focus on making you super employable. What is the point of a CV? Why is everyone so adamant that they require you to produce a CV before they will even consider employing you? A CV, or curriculum vitae, or resume, as the Americans like to call it, is a snapshot of your life experiences thus far that aims to persuade an employer that you are the best candidate for the job opening that they've got going. It's actually in the name. Curriculum vitae is Latin roughly for the course of my life. As a CV provides a snapshot, it allows an employer to quickly decide whether or not you are a promising candidate. For instance, they can see if you have enough relevant experience, or if you meet the minimum educational requirements, or if you have the necessary qualifications to be able to perform the task that they need you to do to the standard that is required. It becomes important because most jobs have a lot of applicants, and this is the first thing that an employer will see about you, and they can use that to decide whether or not you enter into the pool of potential candidates. That makes it even more important that we have an awesome CV, otherwise our application will not get the full consideration that it deserves. So now let's get on to making something fantastic. Before writing a CV, you need to know who you're writing it for. Like, imagine trying to write a love letter to your dearly beloved, but you don't know who they are or why they're your baby boo. It's the same thing. The main ingredient you will need to focus your CV is the job description. That is the description of the job that you're applying for. It will detail all of the qualifications you'll need, all the experience you require, and also the type of personality that they're looking for to fulfill the role. I've created a job description based on a real job position that exists in the world for the sake of this video and for the CV that we're going to create here and now. I will add it to the description of this video for your later reference, but right now I recommend just watching. Where'd you find your own job description? Most likely it will be on the employer's website where you find job listings. As a quick crash course, pick an employer, find their career section, usually at the bottom of the page, hunt down a job, et voila, job description detailing everything you need to know to focus your CV. Let's get into the basics of structuring a CV, which is best illustrated with an actual CV. Here's a skeleton of a CV with the appropriate section headers. We may use all of them or we may not. It completely depends on what is appropriate for the job that we're applying for. Also, notice how we have your name neatly at the top along with your contact information. This way, your name is more likely to stick in the reader's mind, and if they want to contact you for whatever reason, they know how. I should note that there are two schools of thought whether your CV should be 1 page or 2 pages long if you're in the UK or USA. I'm an advocate of the 1-page CV because I think it really allows you to focus in on the skills you have to offer, and it allows the reader to get a faster snapshot of what it is that you're going to be bringing to the table. For those reasons, I'm not going to humour a 2-page CV in this video. Oh, you're also going to notice that there's this huge void on the left-hand side of this page. That is for dates. You want this to be in reverse chronological order. That is, you start with the thing that you have most recently done and work backwards from that. This is because your most recent accomplishments typically supersede the ones you have done earlier. For example, your degree is more impressive than your A-levels are more impressive than your GCSEs, etc. The same applies with experience because your most recent positions are typically going to be more impressive than the ones that you had before them because you're further along in your career. So now we've got a skeleton full of tons of blank spaces. I want you to write down absolutely everything that you have done that can fill these spaces. And when I say everything, I mean literally everything, whether you think it's completely relevant for the job position or completely irrelevant. We'll filter it and structure it properly afterwards. So the time you sold lemonade outside your house, the time you babysat your little sister, the time that you managed a Minecraft server, put it all in there. In fact, if I were you, I'd put it on time for 10 minutes and blitz this out, but that might be because I just really love efficiency. Upon doing that, you'll have something that looks like this. Something that lacked structure and cogency. Now, why did I get you to write down a ton of stuff that is mostly irrelevant? First, it's nice to have everything on one piece of paper to see all the experiences and qualifications that you can draw on. Second, most people don't realise that the things that they've done are actually relevant to the job that they're trying to apply for. Because of this, they think that they don't have enough experience, but with a little bit of tweaking of perspective, the majority of experiences can be made relevant for the job position that you're going for. Now it's time to take all of that unstructured information and to tailor it to the job description that we were using earlier. This section is straightforward enough. The job description says that they would like you to have at least 5 A stars to C's at GCSE. So we just show that we've got that covered. If you've yet to complete the qualification, you can just put in your predicted grade. You also want to highlight any specific grades that you got that are relevant for the job description that you have. For instance, if you got an A star in GCSE French, you might want to mention it because the job description says that French is important. The basic structure for writing this section, as is the case for the other sections, is simply the name of the institution, the qualification, and the grade that you achieved. Now this section is less straightforward. How do we decide which pieces of experience that we should be focusing on? Well, if we check the job description, we can double check to see what it is that they're looking for and use that to help us out. They specify communication, while volunteering and giving tours of the local zoo. It's pretty good communication skills being demonstrated there. Working as part of a team and leadership, well, babysitting a group of little people and being responsible for their lives for a little bit is pretty impressive and a good example of that in my opinion. Flexible working hours, well, being the overseer of a Minecraft server and always on call, I'd say that's check. Having covered relevant experience for the position that you're applying for, you may think that there's still a lot that we haven't mentioned that you've done. Don't worry, just cut that stuff or take it and save it and put it in another document for future applications that you may be applying for, just so you have that there. You should be prioritizing the most impressive and most relevant pieces of experience that you have. It's just like how a photographer should operate. A photographer shows you her single most impressive image instead of all the hundreds of test shots that she did to try and get that image to be as perfect as it is. It has a bigger impact if you're shown just one image than if you're shown hundreds. The other plus to not boring them with all this experience that isn't directly relevant to the job that you're applying for is because then you have more stuff to talk about during interview. As we noted earlier, they like French, so if you got the award for attainment in French in 2013, you might want to mention it. Relevant qualifications? Well, they specify that they're looking for someone with a driver's license, and you kept your cool on the dual carriageway last week when you were taking your test, so you've now got that to throw in. The interest section is where you show that not only are you a rock solid worker, but you also have a soul. You throw in here interests that you have, and if they manage to match the company culture, that is even more perfect. What do I mean by company culture? Company culture is the behavior and the attitude that a company approves of and would like its employees to have. To find out what this is, it's usually on the company's About Us page, or, as is the case for us, it's on the job description. They like smiley people who enjoy interacting with others, so including something to that effect would be perfect. Do nots. I've pretty much told you the majority of the do nots, just in virtue of having told you the best practice surrounding writing your CV and structuring it. However, there are a couple of things I still need to cover, and one of them is a relic that has persisted through time and is constantly present on CVs that I review, and it's references available upon request. I would like to point out that if an employer is interested enough and would like a reference from you, they will contact you. You don't need to say on the CV that the references are available upon request. So scrap that. Do not include that. If it's on your CV at the moment, delete it now. It is just a waste of words, and we are far too well thought through and precise to be wasting words. My final do not is do not have any spelling or grammar mistakes. This is the single most important document that you will ever create in order to get a job. And if you have spelling mistakes and grammar mistakes on something this important, the employer is going to think they do not care about something this important for them. Why are they going to take any pride in anything that they do for me? My advice here is to proofread. So change the font, maybe Comic Sans, and then proofread from the bottom up so you get a fresh pair of eyes looking at the CV, and you will spot the vast majority of all of the mistakes, and then maybe get a friend to read it as well. So we have this, and now I've refined it, and we now have this amazing piece of craftsmanship. To quickly go through the changes I have made, I have refined the language to be far snappier and added in bullet points to make everything easier to read. Notice that each bullet point starts with a verb, so the reader can straight away see what you contributed to the task that you were performing. You organised, you led, you coordinated, you founded, you looked after, you cared for. Remember that they are employing you, so be sure to mention the successes that you specifically have done. I've also added in some facts and figures so that they can judge your success with numbers, which are just generally more concrete. Loads of people work in numbers and it's nice to be able to measure these things. Hyperlinks are the next thing that I have added. Most CVs are passed around digitally now, so playing that to your advantage, if you add in a hyperlink to show off something that you've been working on, it just adds a richness to your CV that wasn't possible before. So in this hyperlink goes over to the Minecraft server that this individual has created and shows off the community that they've managed to build and the responsibility that is entailed in managing a server. With the font, you'll notice that I didn't change the font. I kept it readable and I kept it simple. I also kept it black to preserve the quality of the CV if it ever gets printed and photocopied a bazillion times. You want to make the reader's life as easy as possible. I've also filled in any time gaps that were present in the CV. It looks a bit odd to an employer if you took a gap for a few months or like a year. So if you did run away to a monastery to go and find your center, just explain that in the gap, and then that way the employer won't be asking these suspicious questions as to what it was that you were getting up to in this void in your CV. Plus, if you did go off for a year to the monastery, it would make for a really cool conversation, so that's always great. A basic structuring point that I would like you to ask yourself is, what is the most logical and reasonable place for me to put this piece of information? You'll see that I just decided to remove the awards section and throw that attainment award into the education section because the attainment certificate was awarded by your school, so it makes sense for it to be there. I haven't done this here, but some people enjoy having personal blurbs at the top of their CVs from the employee and the employer perspective. This is just a quick summary as to what you're like as a person, and it's quite nice as the reader of the CV to just get who you are in a nutshell. Just bear it in mind, you might want to include it, you might not, it's completely your choice. There you go, those are the basics for writing an amazing CV. Remember, this is your CV, so feel free to adapt it to the needs that you have. In the description you'll find the final copy of the CV that we made during this video, along with the job description that I mentioned earlier. I've also included a transcript of everything that was said in this video in a link down there so you can review it at your leisure. And of course I've added in timestamps of everything that I've been saying in the outline that I've got over here. So if you would like to jump to sections just to refresh your memory, please do. Any questions or feedback, please do post down in the comments, and be sure to vote for the video you'd like me to make next by clicking on your preference now. Thank you for watching and best wishes with any job that you apply for in the future, and I will see you on Sunday, subscribers.